All right. We are live.
Hello, everyone.
You know what, Mark? I really like that color in the background, and I'm thinking about using that in my new house and painting my study that color. What is
Let
it?
us let us know. That's the FMD gold. So we've got that paint chip for you, and we can shoot that over to you.
Yeah, I was
Wow.
because I want it to be bright and feel good when I go in there and I'm locked in for hours and hours on end working away.
Need some a color that will inspire you.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I actually have that color on my background, and then I'm looking at a wood slatted wall on the other side of my office. So I get a variety of scenery throughout the day, and then windows on my whole right side. So
Oh, that's nice.
Nice. Yeah, well,
very,
it's not cold where we're at. So Texas, Ohio.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got a bird feeder outside my window, but there's like some bird flu going around. You're not supposed to feed the birds right now. So
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Wow.
In
I
Austin,
haven't
that's
heard
right.
that.
Oh, and I was thinking I should go feed them because I'm like, it's probably
It's
all
cold.
the food's frozen and they have nothing to eat.
I
And I'm like,
know, I know.
hungry.
I'm thinking Georgetown birds don't have Austin bird flu. That's just for Austin birds, right?
So we do not want the birds sharing the food out there on our bird feeders right now, huh?
I
All
guess
right.
that's the word, but
All right. Well, I'm glad to know that. I won't refill mine this weekend. So
yeah, makes me sad.
You'll have to put a notice on when it's okay. So
Okay, I'll let you guys know. I'll
yes,
be
I
sure
need a
not to-
post on that.
Okay.
all right. Well, I'll go ahead and get us started. So, thank you all for joining us on today's live and welcome to the Dog Gurus Live. We are your trusted pet care business coaches, passionate about helping pet care professionals create safe, thriving, and profitable facilities. At the Dog Gurus, we're all about promoting safety and positive always in everything that we do. And I'm Shantae Marquez, one of your Profit Network coaches, and with my fantastic colleague, Courtney Emkin, who is also a Profit Network coach. And together, we've worked with countless pet care business owners to help them achieve their goals and elevate their operations. But before I introduce my special guest, Mark, and dive into today's topic, I do want to talk about and invite you to come to the Pet Business Growth Workshop. That's next month, February 26th to the 28th in Fort Worth, Texas, where hopefully there will not be snow and there will be nice spring weather. I think we'll be okay by then. But yeah, come join us. It's going to be a ton of fun. And in fact, Mark from FMD Architects will be presenting in the Profit Network workshop. So that is going to be about common renovation mistakes and how to avoid them, which if you are an existing business, you do not want to miss this because he's going to give you so much valuable information. So grab your ticket and take advantage of our bundled discounts that we have going on right now as well. So now I will go ahead and formally introduce our very special guest, and really excited today to introduce Mark Moore because I've had the pleasure of co-presenting with Mark on a few trade shows, and I can tell you firsthand that he is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to designing the pet care for the pet care industry, from pet boarding and doggy daycares to animal shelters. Now, Mark truly understands the ins and outs of building facilities tailored to our industry. And he knows, and because I've heard him talk about these details, but he knows the kind of details that you wouldn't even imagine unless you've been doing this as long as he has. So, Mark, I'll hand it off to you. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about yourself or FMD Architects?
Well, thank you for the introduction. Yes, we've been doing animal care and have a large team, about 16 players that are, architects and teammates that help design all these facilities nationwide. And we like to say, our big focus is to help you as soon as you start visualizing that project and creating that dream book. We like to help you from that moment on all the way to when you're in the building and in the next couple of years after, because we know how fast you'll grow just by setting up the right foundation. So we look forward to being able to answer any questions that you would have today.
Yeah, and he's a lot of fun too. He's actually a big fun teddy bear. That's what I've learned in my time, the dinners that we've had together. So yes.
All right.
So one of the things that I want us to talk about, and this is kind of targeted for those startups, I want to just discuss really the phases of starting a pet care business when you're thinking about building or leasing. Can you kind of go into that?
Yes. The very first thing when I get a phone call or meet someone at a trade show or an introduction from even one of our partners is I tell them that the key thing here is picking your right team in no particular order. You need an architect, a builder, a lender, an advisor, no particular order, but they should have animal care experience. With that animal care experience, they're going to recommend you. So if you come to me first as the architect, I'm going to say, do you have somebody that you're working with in the financial area? Have they pre-qualified you for something? Are you talking to a builder? And so picking the right team that understands animal care is critical to a good design and a profitable project in the long run. Then basically, now you have to select, you've got your team, and please get that team involved in selecting your site. So if it's a brand new site to build on, there are many things that can go wrong with that, which we'll talk about at some point here soon. But do I want to lease a space or buy a building or have a space that I could just build out? So there are many options, but you want your architect or builder to be involved because we're going to look and make sure that if you pick in a space, it's right for you and you're not going to have to spend more money than you expected because it's the wrong kind of space.
Yeah.
We also like to look at your leases and advise you, if you are leasing a space, that you look and you put in a clause there that you got first right of refusal for the adjacent space. It's so critical that you don't get locked in. So you're going to spend all this money to get started. And then in 3 years, you're going to say, okay, I've outgrown the space. What do I do? Do I go build something new? I'm out of land or I'm out of space in this building. No, you set yourself up for the future. No matter which way you're going, you set yourself up for the future. In 3 years, you will be beyond where you even imagined.
Yeah, that is really great advice. And I think when a lot of people are first starting to like visualize their business, they're not thinking about 3 years. They're so inundated with all the details of where do I even start and what do I have to do? So that's really valuable information and a great tip to offer.
Yeah, I was going to say when we first started our facility, we used an architect, but it was an architect that had never built a pet care facility before. And our original plan was to build 4 identical buildings, but we started with 1. And we ended up like not really loving the one that we built. So we scrapped the plans and had to start all over when we went to make our second building. So yeah, it's really helpful to find somebody that knows what they're doing in this industry.
Here's the number one thing that we hear that we hate is somebody comes up to you and says, I wish I knew that there was architects or builders that specialized in animal care. We've messed up our design. We're at a point where we don't know which way to go, how to fix this thing, how to get efficient flows and everything else. So we really do appreciate your team really getting out the word that there are teammates out there that, don't be the first on the block to try to learn something. This has been going on for years, and the animal care industry continues to grow. And there's a lot of experience out there to help you have a smoother process through the whole, building phase, and make sure you got a good operational layout that you just spoke about. How critical is that? So
let's touch a little bit more, because I talk to startups every week and they often ask me, so what should I do? Should I lease or should I build? So I know what I tell them, Mark, but I want to know what you tell them. So
I'm going to ask them right off the bat their budget. So a lot of times startups, they have been thinking about this for a while, but they only have so much injection to get into the space. And so if you're trying to get in at a lower budget, then take a 3-year lease or something like that, and 3-year with a 3-year option. If you've got a lot of cash and you've been saving up and you're ready to go all out on this thing, I would still encourage you to make sure you pick out a good site that works for animal care. You might get that site paid off or paid down or whatever, and then you build on it. If that is already in the works for you or something, that's when you do a ground up. But often there are buildings like old banks. When banks merge and they're too close to each other, they put one up for sale and they close one of the branches. They make great animal care facilities, and because they're that 5,000 square foot range, that'll get you, the number of dogs, enclosures or daycare areas or whatever you need there. So they're great startup type of buildings as well. And you can also lease the future buy on something like that type of building. So 3 different ways I see it.
That's really smart. I hadn't thought about going to a bank, like using a bank building. Like, that's fascinating.
So another question that I get a lot is, how much space should I look for if I am looking for a leased building? Like, and honestly, I'm like, well, it just depends on your budget, and it depends, like, what do you want your services to hold? But is there any direction that you can give them? Like, I know, like, I'm kind of thinking like 5,000 is like a, maybe a medium size, 10,000 would be like a larger size. What would be the smallest, like, you think that's suitable?
About 3,000 square feet. We've done a few facilities around 3,000 square feet that they absolutely love, and you create flexibility in that space because it is going to change over the next couple of years. We want to make sure that you're always considering the future and additional revenue options and where you can put them in that space. So about 3,000 is the smallest. That 5,000 that I spoke about, getting a building out there that's for sale is very common, and that's a great number to start. We like to see you start with around 40 enclosures for a boarding facility. We feel like that's a really good number that starts to cash flow, make sense, and everything else. One of our most common square footages, you nailed the square footages, Shante, that it's just 10,000 square foot is the most common. That can get you up to around 100 enclosures, and if it's all dog or cat or whatever, you've still got enough room there. And then even if you don't want to use or build it all out, and you can add boarding or grooming later or something like that, there's plenty of things to add in that unused area if you don't build it all out from the beginning.
Yeah, I had a 12,000 square foot tilt up like warehouse.
Oh, those are great.
Yeah. And, I didn't even, by the time I sold the business, I still didn't use like one whole, like 2,500 square feet section of it. Yeah. We had 60 enclosures, and I started out with 10 enclosures because I didn't have any money, and it was my poor mother and me like putting together these mason kennels,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I started out with 10, but every year I'd add another dozen or another 10, and finally grew it to 60. But I still had tons of space to actually, continue on with that. And I believe that was actually one of my selling points to the buyers, is that, look, there's room to grow. And there's this business has not even plateaued. It hasn't even hit anywhere close to the amount of money it can make. And I think that really helped me. But I still had huge play yards and everything. And yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. It's crazy. But I mean, I was like, I'm going to do this 12,000 square foot building.
That's a great,
I was getting into
story, though. You starting off with just 10, and you can show the people that are listening that, I say 40, but you got to start off what is you're comfortable with. You might already be handling 10 dogs somewhere, and you really need a facility. So you get out there, and you talk about all that extra space, and that is great for so many things. But immediately, if it's extra space and it's open, those are great play yards.
Mm-hmm.
Indoor play yards. It doesn't all have to be outdoor play yards. Texas gets pretty hot in the summer, and when you got 2,000 square foot of extra space, you turn that into a play yard area. You buy some dividable partitions that are movable, and you can create small dog, medium dog, large dog areas. And it very easy to get in and out of from your existing space, and also outside from that space, that unused space. So there's a lot you can do with unused space without spending a ton of cash in that area. But adding on, just planning that. And the key thing is it seems like you really thought your business plan out and you expanded each year. You had a plan to do that. So you kind of knew where you were growing to. What you don't want to do is not think about the end in mind. You want to think about that right off the bat so that you know that here's where your next expansion is and it's going to flow. It's still going to work with your amenities that you need, that washer and dryer, laundry area, or the food prep and stuff. So you want to focus around that, how you're going to grow right from the start. And that's just part of the programming stages that we would get into right away. We want to hear your ideas. We always say your needs, because that's what you got to afford right off the bat. And then you got your wants, and then you got those super nicety areas and things like that everybody visualizes, but they cost. So we're thinking about all of that, and we want you to share all those experiences, and then we help you design to your budget with what the bank and yourself have worked out with your business plan, and then knowing that we're there for you next year and the year after when you're ready to take your next expansion.
Yeah, I'll just add, if I could, I remember when we first started our facility and we bought land first and didn't even have a business plan or anything. The bank was like, you're going to need some numbers before you start borrowing some money. So we had dogs like sleeping in our garage in crates, and like for 2 years, we had big play areas, that we built on the property. Thankfully, we had 15 acres, so we had a lot of room outdoors. But backyard was our house's backyard was our daycare. But when we did start to build, I just, looking back, like every single building we built was the size we needed at that time. We should have built bigger than we needed because we grew and grew and grew, and every building that we built was always immediately too small. If I needed a bookkeeper or a marketing person or whatever, I didn't have any office space to put anybody else. If I needed more kennels, like I had to build another building because I didn't plan for more kennels than, what I thought I could fill right away. So we started with 24, and then we added another 40, and we stopped at 64. But it just, I just never had enough space. So I would always encourage everyone to build as big as you can afford, knowing that if you do things the way we encourage you to do them, you'll grow into that space.
And if you don't use that and you do sell, that next buyer wants that potential flexibility and has in mind right off the bat, they're coming in and they're adding training or some new revenue source that you just weren't comfortable with doing necessarily. But yes, you have to build a little flexibility into your plan, or you're stuck quickly.
I do think it's interesting that you have a little sweet spot of those 40 enclosures. So do you help the clients with like research and planning for their area and feasibility?
Yeah, we actually have one partner that's fantastic about that, really looking into their area and knowing who you're competing against, what's your population? Is it a growing population? Is it a dog population, type of thing? How many average animals does, that household have? So yes, we do. We don't get asked that a lot of times, but we try to share our opinions, and we try to ask them those questions so that they are thinking about it. If you're putting your place, I have one in Shelbyville, in Kentucky, and it's on one main road, and there's 5 places within just 2 miles of each other, but they're all swamped, and so they're all doing okay. So it makes sense because the population's there that people want for their animals to take care of. So yeah, we get them to think about that, and if they haven't, then we're certainly willing to and would love to help you recognize your area and what the growth need is.
Great. I do want to touch on how building design can enhance your facility's safety, functionality, and customer experience.
Well, this you started with safety. Okay, so let's just start with just the entry for a real quick description. Build a small enclosure, a fence enclosure that you can see through picket fence or something like that with a nice gate on it, with a potty relief area before they come into your space. So now you got a double gate. So if your door opens up, you've already have a safety net in there. If you don't have that, then let's make sure you got a vestibule and a double door space that goes in there. But then you're going into your reception area, and you need a small holding area off to the side so that you can handle a large crowd or whatever, take them over, and then the back staff comes up and picks them up and then takes them to where they're ultimately going. But the flow throughout your whole facility is a major key to this. Putting your amenities in the right location. I like to centrally locate and either do wings this way, that way. Also, you want to build a nice sound wall between the front and the back of your space. We want people to walk into your facility, enjoy the experience in the entry and the lobby without hearing the dogs and smelling the dogs in the back. So that's done with durable materials and great HVAC, which is heating and cooling and ventilation. So you want to pull those odors out with some negative pressure. And then just the flow to keep dogs quiet, more relaxed, fear-free atmosphere and everything else. Don't have a lot of animals facing each other and only about a 5 feet walkway in between them. They're constantly going to be at each other. So, a good design will have back-to-back looking away from each other and, create zones. Never have, only try to have about 20 in each zone so that there's not too much in one area that you have to take control of all the noise and everything. So, and they're very easily to maintain and clean those areas one at a time. So flow all the way through. Big, nice, wide corridors, a lot of daylighting. Remember, these animals love the daylighting, and we can get daylighting 30 to 40 feet in your building just through windows outside and then on the inside of your walls as well. So all those things play into factor of a good layout and safety and operations.
Mark, do you ever recommend that people have a quarantine area or a place for if a dog gets a contagious illness? Because that's something that we didn't have that I really wish we had had.
Absolutely. We always try to put one on near the back, maybe over to the side of where the parking is, with a door directly outside, small relief area right outside of that. So if you sense a dog has that, you take them right back in, you call the owner, come and pick up your animal. In the meantime, they're in a safe area. You're still going to have a potty relief area, double fenced in there, so that client will tell them, hey, meet us around to the side of the building, and you'll hand that dog off. It's very safe, and you're not taking the dog now back through and out the front lobby or anything else like that. So that's a really good point, and it should always be in your consideration in your design.
Yeah.
Great question, Courtney.
Yeah.
So what are some common design mistakes to avoid when you're planning your space?
Well, one of the most common, I would say, is the wrong flooring. So we like to encourage you to spend your money where it's best for the animals and the most important infrastructure of your building. Certain things are easy to change out later, grow into, or whatever, and certain things are not. So you need a good flooring product right off the bat. Hopefully you can afford epoxy or some type of sealed sheet product or welded seams or something like that. So you want to put in a good flooring, and you need, most people wouldn't even know it, but the heating and air conditioning codes for boarding facilities, we need 100% outside fresh air and a certain amount of air changes per hour. We need certain humidity control. So HVAC is what we call that, heating and air conditioning. It's extremely expensive, and no one really plans for that kind of budget. So we have to inform them right away what level. The other way to do this is to make sure you got nice overhead doors that create outside airflow inside if you don't have that initial budget. If you're leasing a space, ask that landlord, can I put an overhead door here, put some operable windows in here so that I can get fresh air in that way if I don't have the money for a good air conditioning system. And also, you probably don't want to spend a lot of money on a rented space. So you want to just have good airflow. So those are the two most common issues or hurdles that you don't really think of in advance. But countertops, use what you can. You mentioned earlier shoreline cages and stuff. There's a lot of that product out on the market that you can buy used to get started sometimes. In shoreline, it hasn't changed the fittings on those things. They still match from 30 years ago. So, there's ways to save money getting into your place. And you got to take all those considerations in by talking to your architect and trying to get as many red flags or warnings that you can to try to avoid those common mistakes. Flow is another thing, and width of the corridors are terrible. If you've been in one that only has 3 or 4 foot wide corridors, it's so frustrating trying to handle a dog and maneuver and go around through there and such. So you're going to spend some money getting a little bit wider corridors and good operations.
That's great. Very smart.
Yeah, I wonder. That makes me thinking about like the HVAC system. Are they starting to regulate that in any of the states for our industry?
Oh yes, it's very, very. It's just in the last couple of years. It's gotten much more strict throughout the design. So we have to. We were just having a meeting with our engineers this morning, actually, around lunch, and talking about the 3 different options of how you do it. So you have to put in the Cadillac system for full-blown HVAC to meet code. Some officials won't accept any less. Or you have to put this intermediate system that there are systems out there, UV systems that kill all the germs, and they create fresh air changeovers that create it just like it was outside air. Or you have those overhead doors to allow the air to completely change multiple times in an hour. And so, yes, it's very regulated. So unfortunately, in our plans, we have to show you that you're going to spend some money there one way or another, and we just need to meet which method meets your budget the best. That's a really knowledgeable, that's a great question that people really need to know.
Yeah. And that's just one of the, benefits of choosing somebody that works in our industry and utilizing their expertise. They're going to be aware of all these regulations, all these things that are specific for our industry. So if you are thinking about doing a build out or renovation, don't just choose any builder, really go with people who specialize it. It's so important. Sure. It's going to save you a ton of money in the long run. Anything else we want to add to this discussion before we wrap things up?
Oh, I'd just say, along with people like Mark and, some of the other companies that we are associated with, I would say stick with the Dog Gurus, because we're going to be here all along the way trying to help you build a better facility, take better care of your animals, take better care of your employees. Like, that is literally what we're here for. So, yeah.
And I appreciate you guys doing your event, and you're bringing in vendors that are really helping the clients from every aspect of their business. And I think that's a great thing to do. Sometimes you go to one of the trade shows and you get overwhelmed. You hear that all the time. You're bringing in a focused audience and teammates that really have the best intentions for that client, from a builder to an architect or whoever it may be, even supplier, equipment supplier and things. And I think what you guys do, that's absolutely fantastic. And I'm glad to be part of it. And I gave you a few hints and some things that we will talk about in about a month.
Can't wait.
Thank you. And so I'll go ahead and wrap things up. If you are a startup company and you do need some guidance on creating that business plan and forecasting your financials, things like that, we have Launch Formula. That is a product. If you already have an existing business and you want to make yourself more profitable so you can expand to that second or third, fourth location, we have growth intensive product for you. And then we also have our Profit Network membership, which can give you exclusive coaching. So we got something for everybody. We're happy to help. We love helping people. And the last thing I'll say is we would love it if you join our Facebook group, Grow Your Pet Care Business. That is a place for people to get support and advice. I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat. We just have 2 rules. That's it. Be nice, because we're positive always.
And don't sell anything.
Yeah, the second one is no sales. Let's keep it a forum for support and to get advice and feedback from other business in the industry. All right. Okay, everybody, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you all.
For joining us.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Bye.